Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Central Intelligence presented by Off the Glass. Don't forget to follow along on Twitter at OTG Basketball. My name is Matthew Handel. I'm here joined by my co-host Corey. What's up, my man?
Matt, how you doing, man? I'm a little sick, trying to get over the flu right now, but I'm happy to be on to get this podcast rolling for another week.
Heck yeah, man. I think I have the perfect thing for that cold. I mean, it's All-Star weekend. You sit down, what do you go with? You go with chicken noodle soup. I mean, what do you do for it?
Chicken noodle soup. Maybe I'll play a little Old Dominion in the background while I'm watching the game. Who knows? Last week you brought up Old Dominion. I know you went to the concert. I checked them out. I'm kind of embarrassed. I actually do know who they are. I heard like two or three songs. I was like, oh, I've definitely heard this band before.
Nah, that's good though. It's like you don't even think about them, and then you're like, oh, okay, they got some bangers.
Pretty solid. I like your choice of music. I
Uh,
respect it.
hey, thanks, man. I enjoy someone that can enjoy my music, enjoy my basketball taste. Obviously, that's why we're doing this show because we're just a dynamic duo. But okay, so let's get rolling right into this, Corey. The usual. Let's do the recap. What's going on? What happened last week in the division?
Well, the Cavs and Bucks both went 3-0 last week. The Pistons and Bulls both went 2-1, and the Pacers went 0-4.
I was just about to say, man, good. I mean, I'm like, oh, that's a good week, and then you throw that last one in there. It's like, I mean, we're gonna probably talk about that later, but overall, I mean, decent week for the division.
Yep, and I think the highlight of the division for the week, you can sum it up pretty much in that LeBron James pass. I think you know the one I'm talking about, the one that went in between the legs of Andrew Wiggins to a Derek Williams layup. Probably one of the sickest passes I've ever seen.
Oh my God, dirty. He wasn't even looking. Like you can break it down. It was a no look, so that's already gonna give some bonus points, right? He nutmegs. He throws it between the legs of Andrew Wiggins, and the dude and Derek Williams scored. And the thing is, it was on I forget what channel I was watching, but they were doing like top pass of the week or something, and it didn't even win. I mean, it went up against the John Wall when John Wall. Do you remember when he went between the legs like on the fast break?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But like it didn't even win against that. And I was just like, oh, come on, man. Like the
I think the
dude,
coolest thing too was about that is after LeBron James made the pass and the bucket went in, LeBron walked away as if it was nothing serious. Like
oh
it's
yeah.
it's just so simple and easy to him.
Typical, like, yeah, that just happened. You guys can chill about that because I'm just gonna he'd probably do that again like sometime down the road. I would not be one bit surprised.
Well, and again, since we're on the Cavs, a big injury hit the Cavs this week. Kevin Love went down with a knee injury. He had surgery. He's out for the next 6 weeks. Matt, how does this impact the Cavs going forward?
Well, like there's a lot of things you can break down, right? The initial you hear this, it's obviously not good. No one's gonna say this is good for the Cavs. I would hope. If they do, they should never talk about basketball again. But the thing about when you first hear it, it's like, okay, well they've had some injuries, right? J.R. Smith went down with the thumb. He's gonna be out for a little bit longer. Shumpert got hurt a little bit, but he's back now. So you hear this, you're like, like my first initial reaction was, dang, like I'm so glad they got Derek Williams, because that was a good pickup, and now it's looking even smarter. But and then to top onto the injury, it's not directly related, but a little bit has to do with it. Was the Serge Ibaka move? The Raptors bring in Serge Ibaka. They're already towards the top, and I think the Serge Ibaka move is really going to push them over the edge. But a lot of people were saying now, like, oh man, are the Cavs going to lose that number one spot and all this? I wrote an article for OTG. It was about this exact thing, Kevin Love's injury. And in there I mentioned Kevin Love goes down, but there's three players that are going to have to step up for the Cavs, and that's Derek Williams, Channing Frye, and Kyle Korver. Frye already had a couple big games when Love went down. Williams has been playing pretty solid, but Kyle Korver's been on fire the last 5 games. He's shooting 74% from three. So, like, that's the Kyle Korver they went and picked up. So obviously it's not good, but I think this is a good test for the Cavs, right? Because, someone like that goes down, and obviously if Kevin Love's hurt in the final or in the playoffs, you know, I don't know about their chances. They still have LeBron, but this is going to be a good test for the players that, kind of like the role players and the bench players to show, what they can do. I want to hear what you like. What are you thinking? Is it is it a race for number one, or do the Cavs still have this, locked up? What do you think?
It's the Cavs.
Yeah.
I took a look at their schedule before. They face the Knicks when they come back from the All-Star break, and then they play a bunch of mediocre below 500 teams for the next month or so, with only
Mhm.
two real challenges being the Rockets and Jazz and the Celtics.
Mm-hmm.
So, they have a nice little schedule here. The only concern for me would be LeBron's minutes. He's still
Yeah.
playing 37 and a half minutes per game, which, as we know, he's telling everyone not to worry about it. And when people asked him who's going to step up, his reaction was, I've never stepped down, which is it's a classic LeBron move to say that.
I'll rest when I retire.
Right. It's, everything you expect LeBron to say is what he says when Kevin Love went down. I don't think it's a major concern because even though, like you said, Toronto got Ibaka, and I as well love that move, they needed for like Ibaka who gives them rim protection and gives them scoring. But that team has been playing so poorly regardless before Ibaka. Like DeRozan's been struggling. That team getting Ibaka doesn't mean they're going to automatically soar to the top of the conference because they still have to jump over the Wizards and Celtics. And I'm not sure if they're better than either one of those teams at this point in time.
No, and I think like you touched about, they're not better than those teams right now. The Wizards have been playing great, and the Celtics obviously with IT, he's been playing great too. But I think with the Ibaka move after the chemistry, the initial chemistry issues that they'll probably have once it wears off, I can see them back at the number 2 spot. But I want to touch on something that you talked about with LeBron and all the minutes he's been playing. I want to throw this at you. What do you think? He says all these things in front of the camera, but I almost think that when he gets home or when he's on that bus ride, like he's like, damn, like my body's killing me. Like, what do you think? Like, do you think he's always this not tough, but do you think he has this front on him all the time, or do you think that like there's moments where he's like, these minutes are really catching up to me?
Well, he has already this season, Matt. I know at one point in time he had an interview, and he said every game, playing any type of NBA game at this point in my career wears on my body.
Yeah.
So, but in the face of your team facing another challenge with losing Kevin Love, it's the point of the season where your leader has to step in front of the camera, and he has to let everyone know, like, calm down, we're gonna be okay. I'm still here. So I think it was just more of a leadership movement. Without question, I think the minutes are going to take a toll on him, and I wouldn't be shocked if down this stretch going into the playoffs, if we see LeBron James sit for several games.
Yeah, and the thing I disagree with is that, once the Kevin Love injury came out and LeBron said this stuff about minutes, all the news outlets and a lot of the TV shows, the main question or topic of the day was, does he need rest, or why isn't LeBron James resting? But then again, you ask yourself, what if LeBron would have said, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna rest a little bit right here"? Wouldn't he get grilled for that too? So I think that LeBron's like, do you think he's like unfairly criticized? Because every answer he has, there's something wrong. Like I remember when I don't remember what finals it was, but he was down and they were asking him about, do you need to step up more? And he's like, well, I'm the best player in the world, like as long as I'm on this team. And then they showed a clip of Michael and he was talking about the team, like
Yeah, that was the first time facing the Warriors in the finals.
like everyone loves Mike's will to win, and like if Michael said, "I'll rest when I retire," oh man, he'd have like a plaque made for him. But I think that some people, like when LeBron says it, it just doesn't sit well with them. Why do you think that he gets like unfairly? Well, maybe not to you, it's unfair, but you think it's unfairly criticized?
I don't think it's unfairly criticized, but any superstar, any all-time great has always faced criticism. Now, of course, we weren't present in the Jordan era, so we didn't see a lot of Jordan criticism.
Yeah.
But there had to be Jordan criticism. There's always criticism. I mean, even Kobe, who I grew up idolizing, he was criticized all the time.
Yeah.
But even now, when he's retired, people talk about the goodness of Kobe, not the negatives. I think that's just what we're seeing right now with LeBron. Like all these critiques of him, when he's retired, we won't hear these critiques.
True. And I think that once, like you said, kind of, if you have a platform like this and you are one of the greatest, a lot of criticism and a lot of pressure comes with that, right? Because it's in any sport, like Tiger Woods, Michael Phelps, like all the greats, like you're gonna have criticism because you're expected to do so great, and a slip in character or slip in your game, kind of, that's when people wait to jump on you, right? because they're like, well, you're not perfect. So, and I think you're right. Once people retire, that's when people even, I wasn't the biggest fan of Kobe, and sometimes I didn't like him because I've always been more of a LeBron guy. But once Kobe started, talking about retirement, you're like, damn, this dude had one of the greatest careers of all time. You know what I mean? So, like, once
You
people,
start to respect the
yeah,
greatness that was played.
exactly, because he's retired. What's the point of picking away at and criticizing him once he's retired? He's not playing anymore. But, we talked about something earlier. A lot of the teams did well in the division, but that last team you mentioned, the Pacers went 0-4, and they've been struggling a lot recently. And I know that you have more to talk about on this issue, but, take us through this, man. What's going on with the Pacers?
Well, I've been sick, Matt, for 5 days. And I want to say for 4 of those days, it was because of the Pacers.
I knew this was coming, man. The Pacers
6 straight losses after winning 7 in a row. You go from before that 7-game win streak, you had lost 4 in a row. So now you're on a complete roller coaster from losses to wins. Like you mentioned, you wrote an article about the Cavs. I wrote an article about the Pacers being a consistent headache,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what they are. They're just a constant headache to my already sick headache.
They'll give you 7 in a row and then say, "Psych, we're gonna give you 6 losses in a row." Like, I think
Completely ruining your win streak. Yeah. It's they just look lost. And now I know, yes, they played the Cavs twice this past week. They played the Spurs. They played the Wizards twice. And I know it was a really tough stretch. But the good teams, you figure out how to win at least one of those games.
yeah, 0-6, 0-6 is unacceptable. If you're gonna be a team that's supposed to be top 5 or top 4, even in the East, you got to get wins. Even, correct me if I'm wrong, but you would take a 500 record, right, over that stretch.
Yeah, because a couple of the games were at home, and you
Yeah.
got to at least take care of home court.
Yeah.
And I know Thad Young is out with a wrist injury, which it obviously hurts. I mean, they have Kevin Seraphin playing power forward,
Yeah.
and Kevin Seraphin should not be starting on any NBA team.
No.
Jeez. But the problem with me is it's Paul George. There's just this. He mentioned it last night. He said there's a dark cloud over the Pacers, and there is a dark cloud over the Pacers. And I can't remember. I've read an article. I think it was by Zach Doyle, by the Indy Star, and he said the biggest issue with the Pacers right now is Paul George refusing to play the power forward.
Yeah, because
you have Thad Young out. Your backup power forward Lavoy Allen is also out.
Yeah.
You need and Paul George. I understand he does like playing the power forward because it beats up the body. He's a smaller guy, so it takes a toll on him. But for a stretch of games, suck it up.
Yeah, and I think that's true, and there's a lot of it. There's some advantages. Correct me if I'm wrong. There's some advantages to him playing the 4-2, right? You're a knockdown shooter. Why not play the 4? I mean, you don't have to go in there and bang. I mean, for most of the rebounding, yeah, but you can, especially in today's NBA, you can innovate the 4, and especially like you said, just for a stretch of games, suck it up, dude. Like, that's the problem with a lot of stars, and I'm not going to go in on Paul George because it's not. He hasn't said anything or done anything too bad, but a lot of the time, winning, you have to sacrifice, man. And a lot of these guys already have this brand, and they don't want to sacrifice that. But if you want to win and avoid these 0-6 stretches, you have to sacrifice. And it's only moving to a position where, I mean, if you go to the 4, there's better options at the 3 than you staying at the 3 and having Kevin Seraphin come off as the 4. You know what I mean? So,
I mean, like defensively, it would hurt, but offensively, Paul George playing against a normal 4, he has the speed advantage, which is why guys like Carmelo Anthony have been so successful at the 4. Is because offensively, Carmelo can beat up most power forwards because he's faster. So the issue is Paul George doesn't want to play the 4, which whatever. If you don't want to play the 4, I guess it is what it is. But we're now in this phase where today he came out and said he's hesitant to re-sign with the Pacers going forward, and that he's always told Larry Bird that he wants to play and win. He wants to be winning.
mm-hmm.
And then he had an interview with Sage Steele on ESPN this morning, and he reiterated the same thing that he wants to win. And then she brought up the trade rumors, and he goes, if it happens, it happens. So these are not answers that you really want to hear from your superstar. It just seems that he's in this dark cloud that he spoke of last night is truly over this entire Pacer team. There is so much uncertainty. And now if you're Larry Bird and you're hearing these comments and Paul George is a free agent next year, now your window and your margin for error is very slim.
There's a lot of pressure on the Pacers organization, right?
Extremely.
I think Paul George just put the ball in their court, right? Like he's got the upper hand, no doubt, because like you said, he's a free agent. He said whatever happens, happens. That's something you never want to hear from your superstar. And we're at the time where this is where trades are going to start being made. So it's definitely not good for the Pacers, man.
I kind of misspoke a little bit. He said it whatever happens, happens, but he told his agent not to tell him what happens. You know what I'm saying? He said he's focused on the team, but whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
Which is, it's the right answer, but at the same time, it's not the I want to be here kind of answer.
It doesn't leave the Pacers fans with the great sense of this guy's in it for the long haul, right?
Right. Especially when he says he's hesitant to resign.
Yeah.
So then, your concern is, Larry Bird and the Pacers have never been a deadline trading team.
Yeah.
They've never focused on trying to make deals at the deadline. Larry Bird is kind of in this weird spot where he really needs to try and make a move now at this deadline, or at the very least, I guess, make a move in the offseason, because if nothing changes by this time next year, they will be trading Paul George away from the Pacers.
Yeah.
There's just nothing else that would be able to happen.
Mm-hmm. No doubt. And I think that they're going to have to decide, are we going to, how much do we want to invest in this guy? Are we willing to turn our team upside down, or are we going to maybe if he's going to be like this and be hesitant? I mean, the bottom line for the Pacers is they're going to have to bring in we see this all the time. You're going to have to bring in players or you're going to lose Paul George. There's no way around it. You can't, beat around the bush with this situation, right? Because Paul George doesn't want that. He wants to win right now, and I can't blame Paul George. It's just a tough situation.
He's been spoiled.
Yeah,
and I mean this in the sense, think about it. His first 6 years in the league, he made the playoffs 5 of those 6. The only year he missed it was when he broke his leg.
Yeah.
So he's been in the playoffs every year. He's been to the Eastern Conference Finals twice. So he's been given a beautiful start to his career by always being in the playoffs. I mean, they're in the playoffs, but they're not playing for anything.
Yeah, but those numbers are nice, but really, did they have? I mean, when you go back to the David West and Roy Hibbert days, they had a good team, but did they have the team to win it all,
though? I mean, no.
I mean, like you said, the playoffs. It's nice, and he has been spoiled with the playoffs, but really, has he been spoiled with the team that should have won it all? And he's like, no, they didn't win it all, and Paul George kind of messed it up. I think it's a good experience and everything to get to the playoffs, but really, if you don't have the pieces, when every team's going to say, okay, we want to win a championship, but then there's teams that are realistic and we do need more pieces. I don't know. I don't think that he's been spoiled with the playoff experience, but I don't think he's been spoiled with teams that could have won it all, if that makes sense.
No, I agree. I don't think. I mean, maybe the last Pacer team that they kind of fell apart late in the year, but that was the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. That was probably the best chance they had during the middle prime of the season. Paul George was doing 360 dunks during the regular season. That was probably the best chance. But like you said, I don't know if that team beats the Spurs. They probably don't, just because of depth and overall.
Yeah.
But, it's tough. And if you're a Pacer fan, you're now in concern that you're going to lose your franchise player. And then for me, I'm leaning towards already trading Paul George.
Mm-hmm.
Why not?
Yeah.
If this is I don't like circuses. I don't like when things get bad in the media. And this is where this could be headed. I'm not saying it will. Maybe things turn around. Maybe he resigns and everything becomes okay. But you got guys like the Celtics. They want a wing player.
Yeah.
They're looking for a guy who can throw in 20 points a game and play defense. I'll take the Brooklyn Nets 2017 and 2018 pick and Jay Crowder, and you can have Paul George.
Two things that you talked about right there that I think are really interesting. The part about saying, you know, having this maybe or having this doubt. Good teams don't have maybes, right? The Spurs don't have this, you know, this might turn into something bad in the media. The Cavs have had a little bit of issues in the media, but, you know, at the end of the day, we all know what's going on. And the Warriors don't have that either. So I think that's an issue. If you're going to have a maybe with your superstar, that's your first issue. And the second thing I'll ask you, you know, you talked about getting the Nets picks and stuff like that. Do you think that maybe it's time the Pacers kind of accept that, you know, if we do this Paul George move, it's going to start a very heavy rebuilding process? Do you think that's a road they should consider at this point?
I think it's a road that Larry Bird's considering. You know, because Larry Bird, first off, he got rid of Frank Vogel for one reason. They wanted to play small ball tempo. And they really haven't played small ball tempo this year because Paul George still refuses to play the four. So if it could be the point where Larry Bird might just be frustrated enough with Paul George that he's ready to fully rebuild around Miles Turner, which I'm not against. Because the fact of the matter is, this Pacers team is not going to win a championship in the next 3 to 4 years. They're just not. Whether Paul George is there or not, this team is not going to win a championship as long as LeBron James is on the Cavaliers with the team he has. Mm-hmm. So if you're Larry Bird, maybe you think, all right, let's think big picture here. Paul George is worth a lot. He's inconsistent. So it's not like he's for example, you would never trade away LeBron James or Kobe Bryant. For example, the Lakers, when they were struggling, they thought about trading away Kobe, but they never traded away Kobe.
Yeah.
Paul George is not a LeBron James or Kobe player. He doesn't put up those kind of numbers.
He's in his prime, though. You know what I mean?
Right. In his prime with the leg injury already.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have the same explosion since the leg injury.
Oh.
So maybe if you're Larry Bird, you already have a relationship with Danny Ainge from your Celtics days. Maybe you start looking for the future. And for the Celtics, that makes them arguably contenders.
Mm-hmm. That would be that
they
makes
could beat the Cavs.
That makes the I don't know, in series. I don't know. That'd be if they
trade back Avery Bradley, they have a lot of defense.
If the Celtics trade for Paul George, I think that they would take the number 1 seed for the regular season. There's no doubt in my mind, because especially with this Kevin Love injury, this is terrible timing, because teams are going to start stacking up at the trade deadline. We've seen it from the Raptors, and if the Celtics got Paul George, they would win the number 1 seed in the East, no doubt in my mind. They're already close. I think right now, I think the Cavs would win it. I think they're going to win the number 1 seed. But if they traded for Paul George, no doubt in my mind, they win the number 1 seed. But I think the Cavs would still win the Eastern Conference Finals. But damn, that'd be a hell of a playoff series, no doubt.
I mean, I don't think it happens, but I'm just saying, I know that we're now in very uncharted waters for the Pacers, and it's concerning. But let's look at some brighter pastures. You know, all the teams and players they're down in New Orleans. They're relaxing. They're having fun. A lot of players from the Central Division itself are involved in All-Star Weekend. Matt, tell me what I should look forward to and who I should look forward to this weekend.
Okay, so I'll just give you a quick rundown. We got LeBron, Jimmy, Giannis, and Kyrie, and Paul George. They're all in the All-Star game. LBJ, Jimmy, Giannis, and Kyrie are all starting for the East, which is awesome. They're all representing the Central, and then PG's on the bench as a reserve. So we got those 5 guys in the All-Star game itself on Sunday night. But we also have Malcolm Brogdon from the Bucks, Miles Turner, who we talked about, and Glenn Robinson. They're going to represent. Glenn Robinson will be in the dunk contest, and then Malcolm Brogdon is going to be in the Rising Challenge? Rising Stars, and Miles Turner is going to be in that too. So that's exciting. You know, I'm not going to sit here and say watch for Glenn Robinson in the dunk contest. Who knows? He might have a good dunk contest, but I'm going with Giannis in the All-Star game. Now, like we talked about off air, you might talk about this in a little bit, but one of the players on this list expects himself to have a huge All-Star game. But I just think with, you know, Giannis, it's his first All-Star game. He's a freak. He's going to shoot. And a lot of the time it's like highlight plays, alley-oops and such. And I think Giannis is going to have a big game. And watch for Kyrie, because Kyrie's in 2 events. He's in the 3-point contest and the All-Star game. So Giannis and Kyrie definitely my 2 guys to watch. What do you think, man? From the list, what do you got?
Well, I'm interested to see. Uh, After everything I said, I have to now bring him up again. Paul George said he wants to drop 50 because he dropped 41 last year and didn't win MVP. So he'd like to drop 50. He said this year.
That'd be a record too, all-star
Yeah, it'd
record.
be a record, and he hasn't dropped 50 in a regular season game this year. So if he did in the All-Star game, that probably pissed me off a little bit more.
Well, you got to take it with a grain of salt, though. Come
Yeah, of
on, the
course.
the
There's very
defense,
little defense.
man. The defense is just.
I'm just to be honest with you, I'm really interested in the 3-point contest, and I'm actually really interested to see what Kyrie does as well.
What do you think? Give me his your prediction for where he lands, his spot. Like, what do you think? Where do you think he'll end up? His results. Where do
Well,
you think
Steph's
he'll end
not
up?
doing this year, right? It's just Clay.
Yeah, Clay's in it.
Oh, I'm going Kyrie wins it over Clay in the finals.
Okay. Oh, in the finals. Okay.
Oh yes, Klay Thompson, Kyrie in the finals. Kyrie wins 23-21.
Woo. You think? I mean, I wrote an article for OTG, and it's the All-Star prediction, so I'm not going to give away all my predictions, but I do think that Kyrie and Clay are going to be in the finals. I'm not going to tell you who I think is going to win, but I think Kyrie is going to represent this weekend. And the thing about Kyrie is he just does it so quietly. You never hear anything about him, which is awesome.
My mentality. Let
But
your play show it.
all right, Corey. So I hate to do this to you, but we're gonna take it back some deep, dark depression topics. No, no, I'm just kidding. It is a little less exciting from the All-Star game, but it's the time of year, so we're gonna talk about it. We talked about the Pacers, all their trades, but we do have 4 other teams in the division, and a lot of them need help, and some of them just need a couple of trades. Which teams or which team do you think needs to make a move right now, and which team? Give me a team you think won't make a move at all, or teams.
Well, the Bucks won't make a move. I think. I mean, you know what's funny about the Bucks too? Jabari goes down for the season, and they win 3 in a row without Jabari when Middletown comes back, which again makes me sad because I think that team would have been so good if they all stayed healthy.
Yeah.
Make a move. I know right before we got on the pod, Detroit Pistons were looking at a deal to send Reggie Jackson to Orlando for Jeff Green and DJ Augustine. A very weird move, first off, because Detroit doesn't get what they're giving up back in that deal. And then Chicago. Chicago has got to be the most interesting team going into the trade deadline. Because arguably Rondo, Wade, and Butler could all be traded.
Yeah.
If they decide to sell.
That's fair, yeah.
Because Chicago's not going to trade to bring in a player. They're either going to trade out players, like for example, that entire starting 5 could be traded by the All-Star game. Or by the All-Star deadline. Oh my God, by the trade deadline.
I think Tosh has the biggest upside. Not upside, but the biggest trade value out of all of them. I know Jimmy's a hot item, but I think Tosh has the highest probability of getting traded.
Him and Robin Lopez, I believe, are 2 of the guys who could get moved.
You think the Cavs are making a move or no?
Trade wise, I doubt it. I think they're going to end up probably just signing, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, either Kirk Heinrich or Mario Chalmers, probably.
Yeah.
If they really want a point guard.
I think for me, like we talked about the Pacers, but I think the team that's going to make, we saw it too because Nick retweeted it, like we talked about off the pod. But I think that the Pistons are going to make a move, no doubt. I don't think the Bulls will pull the trigger. I think that's going to be an end of the season deal. The Cavs won't. I don't know. The Pacers are like really intriguing to me. Like, I think you're right. I don't think the Bucks will. So I think the Pistons are the only one that's going to make a move. But I think the Pacers will come really close because, oh man, I think it's almost like a thing. I want to see Paul George go to the Celtics just to make the East more interesting. I don't know.
There was another rumor out there about the Pistons also looking at Andre Drummond trades.
Yeah.
And that's another guy who Boston could look at. Because Boston, they can't rebound. And last night, even against the Bulls, they got out-rebounded by over 20, I believe. And Drummond's a guy who you put him in that lineup. I mean, yeah, he's not a defensive stud, but he gives you 15 rebounds a game, which they could desperately need.
let
Sorry.
me ask you this: who is more like who has a higher probability of trading at the deadline, the Bulls or the Pacers?
Trading for a player or trading away a player?
Trading away. Okay, I'll give you an
Give me a
example.
little. I need a little bit
No, I
specific.
got you. I got
Elaborate.
you. I got you. Let me give you an example. Who's going to be on the move?
Don't say Jimmy Butler or Paul George.
Why
Please
not?
don't put me in that
Why
predicament.
not? I'm gonna get. That's what I'm gonna give you, just because you don't want that.
Ah,
Jimmy B or Paul George, who has a higher chance of getting
Butler.
shipped at Butler? No,
Only,
I
I'm
have to.
only
No, I agree with you. I'd have to
I'm
agree
only
with
gonna
you.
say Butler because the fact that the Pacers are still over 500 and they're still the sixth seed.
Yeah, but Jimmy came out with this. Did you see the thing with him and Chance the Rapper? Him and Chance did a thing for Chicago, and they're talking about
That
how.
what does that mean? What does that mean to ownership?
No, no, no. Listen, Corey, listen. Let me explain myself.
Okay, okay.
No, no, no. Okay, so Chance the Rapper, he's from Chicago, and Jimmy plays for the Bulls, obviously. And they were saying how they have this platform and they want to, be the guys for Chicago and, speak on more of social. And Jimmy was like, yeah, it's more than just putting the ball through the hoop. So I think this maybe doesn't have any effect on the organization or like the higher ups. But I think Jimmy is now starting to get tied into Chicago a little bit. And I think that this is kind of like that D Rose thing. D Rose did get shipped out, but I think Jimmy's got a little connection to the city. So I don't know. I think that they're just less hesitant to ship him, and I think he is less. But I think you're right. I think he has a higher chance than Paul George.
I mean, that's the biggest issue with any superstar being traded is the fact that like the team has to like you have to be sure that you're making the right move by trading away the face of your
Yeah.
franchise.
And how can you ever be sure? It's such an unsure business. Like,
I mean, like for example, like the Nuggets when they traded away Melo,
yeah.
that was a tough decision for them.
Yeah. I mean, you almost have sometimes it's like you almost have to do it. You just have to cut the ties, man. But it's so hard because first of all, Paul George and Jimmy B, they've both only played for that team and they've grown up. Now they're in their prime. They've like the fan base has seen these two guys grow into the players they are now. So it's like, do we really want to cut? I mean, the fans there's gonna be some blowback from the fans no matter what, especially if you're gonna trade your best player. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, personally, I don't think Jimmy Butler gets moved. I think it's a shot in hell that he gets traded to. I mean, well, first let me back up a little bit. If Paul George or Jimmy Butler get traded, it will only be to the Celtics.
Yeah. No, I feel that. I don't think there's gonna be this dark horse team that comes out. The Celtics have been dominating the media with both of these guys.
Right.
And
So
I think
if they get moved, it's only going to Boston.
no doubt. No doubt. Well, we got the weekend ahead, man, and I hope that you can get better with some NBA. The All-Star game. I think it's going to be a great weekend. The dunk contest, 3-point shootout, everything, even the skills challenge tonight. But that's going to do it for our episode of Central Intelligence. Don't forget to check OTG out on Twitter, especially this weekend. I think there's going to be some great content. Corey, my man, as always, it was a pleasure, and I hope you get better, my man.
Matt, everybody, see you next week.
Peace out.